I'm recording.
Awesome. Ooh. So am I. Boy. There's more technology going on than you can believe, right? Making sure you're looking good in there. All right.
Where we go?
So, all right, my head's no longer cut off. All right, good. Awesome.
Hey folks, we're just setting up the for an interview here. That's what you're seeing, all the little tweaking and stuff.
Are you on live?
Yeah, we're not live.
I see.
Just recording. If you're filling the dead spot here, let them know what's going on.
Center you. All right. Good. Wow. This is awesome. All right. Well, I appreciate you doing this.
No problem.
Yeah. Is that for me?
Yep.
Oh, that's very nice of you.
We're going to need something as we talk. You know?
Yeah. That's very nice of you. Wow, this is a cool museum, and I really like this. Maybe I'll take some close-up videos of things as we move forward. But yeah. So this is great. So as I explained to you on my in our phone call and my email, that this is a different kind of show,
right.
A different kind of interview probably than you're used to. It's an interview about beliefs, and I thought I'd talk to you about the Bigfoot belief, since that is what's here, and I'm going to ask you questions about it, and I want to know how you know what you know, and that's it.
Sure.
Do you have any questions before we begin?
No, it was
cool.
Ready to go.
Awesome. So the belief is about Bigfoot, and I'm assuming that you have a strong belief in Bigfoot.
I'd be honest with you, since I've been down here, much more so. Previously, being a journalist, and I've done a documentary on Bigfoot up in Whitehall, New York, for the New York Daily News. It was more a curiosity thing. I moved down here, was not looking for a haunted house or to move into Bigfoot Central, but that's kind of what I ended up with. And since down here, I've had so many people come forward. There's been so many credible witnesses, evidence as far as prints and things like that, and of course your typical fuzzy photos and game cameras. But yes, at this point I would have to say I'm definitely leaning. It's definitely something out there people are seeing, because there's so many people come forward.
On a scale from 1 to 7, how confident would you say that you are that Bigfoot is real, is a real being that exists?
I'd say I'm probably comfortably in the 6 range. I mean, I wouldn't have said that if you would have asked me 7 years ago. I would have been much lower, being kind of skeptical. But like I said, I mean, there's too many people, too many consistencies, the stories that go back from the Hallowasaponi tribe well over 80 years that we're getting, to sightings as recent as, 2 months ago? Not even, a month and a half.
And I'm going to ask you more questions about that. First, I'm going to give you one more scale. On a scale from 1 to 7, how important is it for you to believe in things that are true?
Very important. I think as a journalist, I mean, it's important for me to be factual about the paper we work for. Although tabloids get a pretty bad time of it, and now these days everything's fake news. I'm glad I'm not in the business. And but I mean, we even got someone's name wrong. I mean, that we got our heads handed to us. I mean, just silly little things like that. Yeah, I try to stick with the facts. Now here, as in the museum, and as the guy that runs the museum and does 99% of the talking here, I'm not here to convince anybody Bigfoot's real. That's not my job. I'm here to tell the story. Basically, it's not me that's seeing things. Now, I do follow up, but I'm actually interviewing other people. If you go to our YouTube or anything, you'll see we have dozens of people. And this is a very small percentage of what walks in the door.
How do you know your belief is true?
Just self-awareness, things I've gone through. Just like everybody knows anything. I mean, we know there's air here. We can't see it. I mean, same sort of thing. Common sense. After a while, this me doing investigations, interviewing people, and anyone that's been in the business, after a while you can tell when someone's just snowing you or just giving you a story to someone who's they're reliving the account. I mean, I've had a gentleman about a year ago. We were closed for COVID. I'm a town commissioner too, so everything comes to my front door. Literally crying in my front yard, bring him in, and he saw this Bigfoot type creature in his backyard at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Horrified guy. And no belief in Bigfoot, well, at least not to that point. And not a computer literate guy, not he's older gentleman. But this is what's going on. We've had multiples of that where, Tiffany Merrill, the block behind us, having a sighting January the 8th, 2016, 5 o'clock in the morning. So horrified, pulls her daughter out of school, moves away by week 2. Her mother calls me, I go over and get, that's really what kind of started it here. We heard stories of these sightings here, which I kind of was leery on, but that was the first interview seeing someone horrified, literally packed up and moved away.
So if I were to encapsulate why you believe the belief, is that there's anecdotal evidence that you're relying on people around town, personal experience, and the first thing you mentioned was common sense.
Yeah.
Of all the things that you mentioned, what do you think would be the most important information that helps you believe the belief?
I would say personal experiences with people, interviews. Like I'll give you, if you want a quick example, let me talk about a woman. I'm not going to use her name. She doesn't want me. That's just common. The bulk of people don't want their names out there. There's nothing beneficial for coming forward and saying you saw a Bigfoot or whatever you want to call these things. Well, this one woman lives around the corner on College Street. After Tiffany Merrill had her sighting, she came over, once again, didn't want to be interviewed, but to tell her, I know, sweetheart, I saw one too. This goes back at least 16 years. Her husband was alive, wheelchair bound. She's taking care of him. And this large, hairy creature. Now, the consistency here is dark hair, 6 to 8 inches long, but generally black. And walks past her window. She literally goes to her back of her house to watch this thing walk off the property. And she said she could see the buttocks through the fur because the fur was thinner on the rear end. And that's an accuracy that this woman wouldn't know to pick up. That this is not some hick in a gorilla suit looking to get shot. So it's just, someone didn't spend all day, gluing hair to their butts just to fool somebody. And this is North Carolina, where, Littleton, North Carolina, where in the middle of nowhere. This is gun country. I have people come in all the time say, I'm going to shoot me a Bigfoot. I'm going to be a millionaire. I say, please bring the gun back outside. So, there's too many things where I can't believe. Some of the stuff possibly fake, sure. And we have amazing thermal hits. I've had the media with me. We're out there doing some of these outings, and we've gotten some really good evidence. So it's just having legit witnesses with us, and at this point, there's definitely something out there. I don't care what you want to call it. We call it Bigfoot because that's just a term that fits. But there's we're definitely seeing something hairy bipedal, and there's multiple witnesses.
1 second, I'm sorry. I have to respond to this.
Especially with Egg McMahon telling you won $1 million. Listen to those silly dogs running around. But they're happy. Once he gets this video to me and the audio, I'll post it on our site so everyone knows where to go to listen to this. The edited part.
Yeah, we'll edit it.
I'm surprised my phone hasn't run.
Someone was wondering where I am, and I told them where I am. But all right, sorry about that. Okay, so the main reason why you believe the belief is that you have had people who have seen Bigfoot and you have interviewed these people, and these people were convincing to you, and you said that although maybe some are not telling the truth, you have confidence that probably most are telling the truth.
Yes, I do.
Are you saying that if, and I'm not saying this is the case, if, let's say, your top 5 people who you've interviewed, and if you went to re-interview them and talk to them again, and they, you had a conversation with them, and they said, yeah, I did tell you that, but honestly, I'm not really that sure what I saw, or maybe it wasn't Bigfoot, or maybe, I was kind of making it up just because it was a joke or something like that. If your top 5 interviews, let's say, changed their mind on their thoughts of Bigfoot or what they saw, are you saying that you would reduce your belief in Bigfoot at that point?
I don't know if I'd reduce my belief. We've actually had a few people that after we've interviewed them, we've had correspondence with them again, and we realize that some of these folks are more prone to elaborating on stuff. So, not that we're saying they didn't see something initially, but now they seem to be along for the ride. Now it's a little bit of celebrity they've gotten out of it. So, but the bulk of the people, it's just the opposite. We have many that come to us. I wish you'd never interviewed me. I've been harassed. I've been called, a drunk or this, that, or the other thing. People just get, how the trolls are online. It takes a lot to come forward. Now, the ones that don't come forward are some of the more compelling state troopers, deputy sheriffs, business people in town. Some of the people actually gave us a hard time when we were first talking about this. You're making us look like idiots talking about Bigfoot, who have now come back and said, I know I gave you a hard time, but I have to tell you, I saw something too. But
if I may jump back a little bit, so if you were saying, like, let's say your top 10 most compelling, in your mind, most compelling interviews that you think are the most compelling, the top 10, top 12, if they, like, let's say all 10 or all 12 of those interviews said, well, they no longer believe the belief, or they misinterpreted what they saw, who knows? It could be a million things, right? Are you saying that
mass hysteria?
Yeah. Are you saying that you would change, or you would have a reduction in your belief at that point?
I might possibly, but I mean, like I said, I've done this previously. I had an interest in this, and my interviews in this area are pretty much North Carolina, Virginia stuff. And it's because now that we are doing paracons and reaching out and podcasts and talking to other people, we're hearing so many similar stories other places that kind of jive. The things that we have different here are specific to this area, which makes me all the more belief in what's going on here. But sure, I mean, if some people came through, I guess I'd be a little skeptical, but I'd be more concerned why there would be 10 people coming forward to say, I lied. I mean,
sure, I understand.
And it hasn't happened, so this is very,
right. So like
sticking something on the wall and see if it sticks.
Right. So saying, like, if you had 10 or 12 people come forward that your top interviews, and it's just hypothetically, of course, and they said that I didn't see what I saw. You said that you might be a little more cynical. You might reduce your
and
a little bit.
And I'd be kind of curious too. Why would you tell that story?
Yeah.
Why would you go there? I mean, what was
Right. And let's say that they gave explanations that were sufficient for your a sufficient explanation for you that you would believe it.
Sure. But I've dealt with this before. Like I said, I was a journalist, and we worked this major story, serial killing story. It's still ongoing in Long Island, the Long Island serial killer. And when we had the families out there, these poor girls were murdered. We have a press conference out in the Oak Beach parking lot. Every wacko would come out of the woodwork, and it's like, I'm going to tell you who the killer is. It's my ex-husband. It's my mechanic. He didn't do my transmission right. It's like, he didn't do your transmission, so he's So I've been there. I can kind of filter through the bullshit. And you can tell inside. There's ways to ask questions, and ask the same question a different way and see if you can get the same answer. And I've been interviewed now recently on stuff, and I'm used to having people try to put words in my mouth and say, "Can you say this?" And
so you're saying, as a journalist, when you used to interview people, you were able to sort through
kind of check as you go,
truth and not truth.
Yeah, and usually pretty quickly you can trip somebody up if they're just
So you're kind
trying to get a moment of fame want to get on TV for a little bit. You know?
Yeah. Do you think intuition is a good way to be able to know whether someone is telling the truth or not telling the truth? Is that a reliable way to know that?
It's one way. It's not the only way. I mean, you have to, you look for facts, you look for evidence. The same thing now, if you came to me and said, I just saw something cross the road on Route 4.
Yeah.
First thing I want to do is interview you as soon as I can. I want to get you fresh, get your emotion. And then we're going to go down and we're going to reenact it. And I'm going to go into the woods, we're going to look for prints, broken branches, the whole bit. We really do a good job. I mean, even the equipment we bring out now, I mean, we have thermal scopes, parabolic dishes. I mean, it's, most of the guys that are in our group that come out and help us are retired cops and things. I mean, so it's people who know how to do a search pattern, know what to look for out there. And this is why we're getting good, clean evidence. But it doesn't mean every time we go out there we find something. I mean, the bulk of the time, we get nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, we're trying to follow up. That's why if someone has a sighting or has an event, we want them to come to us as soon as possible.
Well, maybe we could do a thought experiment then. Tommy is sitting next to you, and Tommy has a strong belief in dragons, and he's seen a dragon, and he's interviewed people who's also seen dragons, and the dragons live near him, and I want to know, as a third person, I want to know whether dragons are a real thing, and if it's a real thing, I do want to believe in it. And if it's not, I don't. I'm trying to think of, in Tommy's case, who believes in dragons, how could I find out that dragons exist if they exist?
Once again, you got to talk to him, see what his facts are, ask him a couple of questions, maybe even reenact it if you can, and then come back and ask him some of the same questions again, just slightly different. All of a sudden now the dragon's a different color, the tail's different, whatever. And
So
things
if I ask him,
follow up.
So if I ask him about dragons, and then I come about the dragons he's seen, and if I come up to him later and ask him similar questions, and if he gives me a similar story, then
it's a little bit more credible than. Plus, now you've only got one person seeing dragons. Now, if someone else comes in from a whole different area, doesn't know Tommy or whatever his name is, and has now seen something similar that falls into this realm of dragons, that kind of gives you more. Okay, now this is a second person that's seeing something.
So if Tommy has seen dragons and he has met other people around him who have seen dragons, would you then believe in those dragons?
Not necessarily. I need more proof. I mean, just like here, now we've got multiple proofs. We're not talking about two people. We're talking about, that exaggeration, probably 30, 40 people in this immediate area just come through.
At what point do you think you would start to believe more in Tommy's belief about dragons? I mean, what would it take for you to believe that, do you think?
Multiple witnesses, some proof, something.
Just like say a dozen people believe,
Possible.
Or say a dozen people have reported to him that he's interviewed that, let's say, that they've seen dragons, and then you'd say you need more evidence at that point?
Yeah, I'd want to see some evidence, just like we've done now. I mean, like I said, I came into this very skeptical, as anyone should be, and there's been so much stuff come forward, and a perfect example is I had a film crew come through and watch productions out of Virginia. They were supposed to film me here like everyone does in front of the Bigfoot statue, and they got here 2.5 hours early. So let's go to the park. We had no intent of going to the park. We went down there. We came across an area where all these trees were freshly snapped and twisted, and the canopy was intact. The leaf litter was intact, so it wasn't a microburst or anything like that. So very suspicious. The guy's wife is one of the camera people, and she was very curious about this, but not a believer. She was the one that found the first print, and that's actually a very large print. And so, but this whole thing was filmed going down, and they were there purely just to do an interview. And so, I mean, so many things have happened. So now, if this guy goes out, now we walk around, I decide to go in the neighborhood where this guy supposedly sees dragons, and we find dragon scales. What the hell will dragon leave behind? I mean,
that's a great point. So what if about Tommy's belief about dragons, and this is just a thought experiment, and just trying to understand your belief better through Tommy's belief, that if we went out in the woods with Tommy and we saw a tree burst, and then we saw what we interpreted as a dragon footprint,
or dragon,
whatever
dragons are supposed to do, sure.
At that point, would you believe in dragons? Do you think?
I don't know if I believe it. I'd be that much closer. I mean, it's a step process like anything else. It's like even religion. I mean,
but like on a scale from like 1 to 7.
It's not a cult, so it's not like you join it and all of a sudden, I shave my head and I'm I'm passing out Bigfoot books in the airport.
But would you be? I mean, like how much? I'm trying to think of how much.
I don't know. I honestly couldn't answer that. Everything depends on a different thing. Like me, just like one of the things I know you were interested in getting into, but the paranormal I was brought into much earlier, because my background is photography, videography, and catching things we just couldn't explain. I mean, literally shadows moving through, and there's no way for a shadow to be cast, and things like that picking up. And especially when you get into the world of audio, which you're in. All of a sudden you're hearing sounds. Like you play this back and you hear a little girl talking in the background, you're going to be kind of freaked out. I mean, so it's a step process. You have to go through a process of elimination.
I think what I'm trying to find out here is with a thought experiment, at what point would you become like a 5 or a 6? Or...
See, I'd have a hard time saying that. I mean, everything's different. I mean,
but in your mind, like if someone had...
I can make something up that makes me feel better.
Sure.
I mean, that's just throwing a number out there for the sake of it. This is, Discovery ID just interviewed me, and they were asking me, can we get you to say this? And I told them, no, I will tell you what actually happened out there. And that's kind of what you're asking me to do.
No, I'm not. I'm not trying to...
I mean, I can round up a number. I mean, I don't know. You've got a 1 to 7 scale. So
the reason why I'm asking you this is that I want to know, like with Tommy's belief, how much evidence for you it would take for you to believe in his belief about dragons. And then,
like I said, off the top of my head, it'd be hard because you're picking out totally something that we haven't touched, a person I don't know, and so. I don't know, 50% maybe. I mean, I would say probably less than that. I mean, it's going to take it'd take a fair amount for me to be a believer, and that's what I'm saying. This has been a lot of data, and until you go to our sites and see what we're doing, and basically, I'm not the one seeing Bigfoot. You are. I'm interviewing you. So, and basically, at this point, it's my belief system in all these people coming through. They're seeing something. Now, is it actually a Bigfoot they're seeing? I have no idea. Is there actually a land ape, or some people call it the American?
But you said that you do believe it at a 6.
There's something out there, and they're seeing it. So
okay. So let me put it this way then.
Sure.
And maybe I'm not being clear, and I do apologize about that. Let's say, as a thought experiment, then, that Tommy believes in dragons, but he doesn't believe in Bigfoot. But you believe in Bigfoot, and you don't believe in, let's say, dragons. And I'm trying to see a situation where how Tommy could get you along to believe more in dragons and how you could get Tommy along to believe more in Bigfoot, right?
Sure, I guess we can go that way. Basically, he would have to show me enough proof where something's viable, where it has to be not just one person coming forward, or if it is one person, it would have to be a really good video and something that you can prove that's not faked with other evidence to it. Just like if you don't believe in Bigfoot, if I was going to bring you out there, I mean, you're not going to be converted on one thing, but if we can take you out there and you see something move through the woods and we find broken branches at 10 feet tall, things like that, you're going to go like, something's up. And, you're probably first going to go, it's probably hoaxed. It's kind of normal belief. So we'd have to prove to you that that's not done. But I mean, it's a process. I mean, just try to do it from a scale of 1 to 7 is almost impossible because every case is different. Every story is different.
So if took you through the woods and he showed you footprints and
would I believe him? No, not necessarily for that. I mean, you're just assuming if I see prints or something, that's a cut and dry.
Or the same things that your customers.
It's not black and white. There's a large gray area in there, and that's life.
Is there a gray area whether Bigfoot exists or not?
Well, I have to say it definitely is. I mean, I'm not 100% sure there's things out there, but there's something out there. They're seeing something. Could it be mass hysteria? Is there something in the water? I sincerely doubt that, But we have people out there that believe there's green lasers from space and the world's flat. I mean, it's a world of people believing all kinds of crazy stuff.
So maybe we could use your example. If someone believes that the world is flat, and let's say the world is round, what questions would you have the person who believes that the world is flat to help them see the truth that the world is round? Is there questions that you'd ask them?
Sure, and you kind of ask them to show us what makes you think it's flat. What makes you think Bigfoot exists?
What
makes you think there's a dragon in your backyard?
And if the person who says that the world is flat, they say, well, I've interviewed people and there's some anecdotal evidence that I have. Would that be enough for you?
No, of course not. I'd have to see proof.
And what kind of proof would be for you for that belief, do you think?
For that there, you'd have to have, first of all, we have lots of proof proving the other end, from satellite images and, just common sense. Go stand at a beach or at the ocean where I'm from and watch the earth pitch off and, or fly in a plane. There's kind of ways to figure this out. And,
so you seem like there's evidence, and I wonder...
So you'd have to now convince me all this stuff that I know is false. So.
Right, and I'm wondering...
Now, you go back to Bigfoot, there's not like a ton of evidence that this land ape doesn't exist, but there's a fair amount of stuff that says that they are seeing something out there. So, and it's not just one...
If I can back up, you said there's not much evidence that Bigfoot doesn't exist.
Right.
How do you have evidence for something not existing?
How do you have evidence of something not existing?
Mm-hmm.
Basically, it goes back to a belief system. If you evidence would be not to believe. That's a good question, actually. Basically, go back to DNA, things like that. If you don't believe, you don't believe. Every time someone comes forward, not everybody's seeing what they claim they've seen. You do get a lot of people who come forward and, like I said, they're unsure. Matter of fact, one of the things I'll mention is, when I first came down here, we had a lot of the older folks telling me that they were seeing wolfman sightings in the area. And I thought that was pretty interesting because once you start talking to them, what they're seeing is a bipedal creature covered with hair. But they don't know Bigfoot. They don't. These coins, land apes don't mean anything to them. So basically, they're going back to a Lon Chaney movie or something that kind of fills their void there. So the sightings are there, but yeah, it's a crazy. Belief is a belief, and no matter what it is, from believing your wife's faithful to you.
So in the case of Bigfoot or dragons or the shape of the earth,
mm-hmm.
I'm wondering, if we could set up maybe a test. There's a test that we could do that if the test ended up this way, then we would believe in Bigfoot, and if the test ended up another way, we wouldn't believe in Bigfoot, or have more confidence in the belief. Let's put it that way.
Sure.
I wonder, is there something that we could do to help Tommy make a decision whether he wants to believe in Bigfoot?
I don't know, what test would you do?
Yeah, I'm wondering. Yeah.
I have no idea. But true serum, lie detector. Those are breakable too.
So you're saying that even if a test,
faith is faith, you have to go with somewhat, some common sense.
And what do you mean by faith?
You have to believe in things. Once you get comfortable with something, and you could believe in something now. Like a perfect example is religion. Someone grows up being very religious and later decides I don't believe in anything. I'm an atheist now.
I'm trying to see your definition of faith.
Yeah. So I'm using that. Religion is just one that everybody can comprehend. So everyone has their beliefs.
But faith means to you
to believe in something, to trust in something.
Faith means trust.
Yeah, so it could be. Faith can mean a lot of different things.
Yeah.
Being.
If you have evidence for things that are.
Right. Sorry.
Oh, sorry.
My brain's kicking in slow.
If you have evidence for things that are true, do you need faith that things are true?
Yeah, I would say so. I want to be comfortable to do stuff like this. Even for me to come forward now to be the character that runs the museum and to talk about these Bigfoot sightings. You gotta put a little pride in your back pocket because you're gonna get heat. Someone's gonna come in and question you, and someone that thinks they're a little bit highbrow. It tends to be how it comes in, and I can tell you better. I know better. These things don't exist. It's like how? Show me.
Yeah.
I've been in the woods. I was a hunter, and I've never seen this. That doesn't mean
Right.
How many bear have you seen? It's like these things we know they're out there. We're finding bear prints along with other prints. So
and to be clear, if your belief is true, I would like to believe it.
Sure.
And that's why I'm asking you about how you know what you know, the reliability of the information that you use. And I'm trying to...
Primarily interviews, which I keep on saying.
Mm-hmm.
It's basically, I'm a journalist, so I'm relying primarily on interviewing people and then following up.
And I guess
I don't have a way to do
well,
mind scans or anything of that sort.
But let's say we could do mind scans as a test. And we could scan people's minds, and let's say we could give people truth serum, and we could give people lie detector tests. And let's say, just for the purposes of this thought experiment, that it came out that they were lying or were not telling the truth. Would you reduce your confidence in the belief, or would you?
Sure. If I found that everyone was if the world was really upside down and everyone was lying, it was a put on from the beginning. Yeah, I'd definitely be nothing's fixed in stone, as we say in politics. I mean, any law we write, we can unwrite, we can change, and so basically,
right.
It could change my view.
Now I wonder if there's more of a straightforward way we could find out whether the belief is true or not. If there's something that we...
Well, I've been accused too by people coming through that I don't really believe, I'm just using this as a ploy to make money. Well, we're not making money. Now, the thing it has done, it actually has helped put this little town on the map. Yeah. And that's been a benefit for the town. But it's at the expense of, people poking fun, but I don't care. I mean, I broad shoulders, I can handle it, And,
if Bigfoot wasn't true, would you want to know it?
Sure.
Yeah.
I like facts.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why I'm in the position I'm in now, because of all the research we've done has taken us in the opposite direction, where there's something out there, and there's no way someone could be faking all this. We go places nobody knows we're going, and evidence is found as far as, prints.
But if Bigfoot wasn't true, like objectively true, how could we find out? How could Tommy find out? How could we find out? I'm not saying it's not true, but how could we find out it wasn't true if it wasn't true?
I have no idea. I mean, to be honest with you, how can you find out anything? How can you find out if, God exists, or, this is really air, or if we're really here?
Yeah.
So, I mean, you can get into a real mind trip after a while when you start thinking about how these things change.
So, in like the case of oxygen, if oxygen is a thing, do you think that there's a test that we could?
Well, to oxygen, we have science, obviously, then we have things to do that, but once again, I mean, is the air here pure? I mean, without taking an air sample, how do you know I'm not, sneaking some kind of gas into you and making you believe in Bigfoot,
Right.
But, I mean, it's a lot, you take some things just, for granted. I mean, you trust your car brakes are going to work in the morning.
Yeah.
So some things you just got to take for, a little bit. Otherwise, you drive yourself nuts. You'd hide in the house like we have for a year.
In the case, let's say, if someone was sneaking gas into this interview, I'm wondering if there was a way we could find that out. If there's some
air samples, sampling.
Yeah.
I mean, but who has that in their house?
Yeah.
As far as finding if someone's telling the truth about Bigfoot, I mean, unless you have the expense to really, literally do, testing on people, which is not going to happen. I mean, you're relying on the police to rely on that. I mean, people have been put in jail for a lot less evidence.
Well, maybe this question then. Do you think it's practical or useful for anyone, not just you, for anyone, I could ask this of Tommy or anybody, to have a belief, any belief, that can't be shown to be incorrect if it's incorrect? Do you think that's a useful belief to have that can't be shown to be incorrect if it's incorrect? Because I'm thinking, if a belief can't be shown to be incorrect, then how do we really know that it's true?
Well, some things can be proven to be incorrect. I mean, some things are measurable, but someone coming forward and saying they saw something, that's kind of hard, because you're relying on a personal experience in that case, unless you had a witness with them, which is why we go out in groups and we do stuff and we record everything. We wear GoPros and we have a lot of equipment. and we try to document everything. Even if we find prints, we document the casting. I mean, we try to make it as open as possible to show no one's manipulating anything.
Do you think that relying on other people's personal experiences is, generally speaking, a reliable way to know whether something is true?
It's kind of the only way in doing this. I mean, unless you want to. See, if you came to Littleton, or I come to Littleton, and you are seeing Bigfoot, and it's always you.
Yeah.
It's you. I'm going to be skeptical. Why is this one guy the only one that sees it?
Right.
Now, I come into this town not looking for it. I'm escaping New York, high taxes, dying newspaper business. And we come in here, and there's dozens of stories, and the stories are rolling in. I mean, from, Halawasaponi tribe, referred to as Midnight Howler, Catamount, Boogeyman. I mean, just the stories have been around forever. I can show you an article from 1929. They talk about this Littleton hairy man found in the woods, and they buried it to the camp. I mean, so the stories have been here. It's nothing we've created, but we're working on it. I'm telling the story. I mean, I know a good story when I hear one. And to this point now where I'm at the belief point where I think there's something going on. There's definitely something out there. Now, what are they saying? We have some kind of hybrid, bear, walks on two legs. I mean, we don't really know for sure until we get something. Obviously, it's going to be, a proper DNA or a body or something of that sort. But as far as people, that's all we've really got right now is the witnesses that are coming through to have everything to lose and nothing to gain by coming forward. And that's why maybe 10% are willing to let us interview them. And a lot of them come back to us and say, I wish I never did it.
What do you think about this statement as a general statement about beliefs? And I've thought about this, that someone's confidence in a belief should be proportional to the evidence available for that belief being true.
I guess that works. I mean, I think I said every subject is a little bit different, and a lot of things you just have to, like, going back to religion. I mean, how do you prove that God is real? How do you prove Jesus Christ existed? I mean, those are hard things. That's where you go back to true faith and believing something on your own, and you have to be comfortable with that. Now, it happens to be a mass, huge belief, but I mean, you get down to it. How do you prove that? And then, it's basically, that's another one. It's you're relying on old stories, books that were written, more personal experiences that were written down in books and rewritten.
Are you telling me in this situation that faith, in this case, is believing in something when there is less evidence for that belief being true?
It can be. You have to be open. I mean, the bottom line is some things are going to be flat out obvious. I mean, I can go out and touch your Tesla. Your car's out there. I can see that. I can touch it. Can you go out and touch a Bigfoot? No, unfortunately. I mean, maybe if it does touch you, you'd know it real quick. But I mean, the belief system here is people coming forward, and it takes a lot for someone to walk through that door and to tell me their personal experience. Sure. Now, since we've been here, we've been on Travel Channel, MTV, and all the rest of the stuff. People feel more comfortable. They kind of feel like they know me, and they come in and they talk. Right. But beyond that, it's a rough thing. I mean, people come in and tell me stuff. This is the ones that obviously not being recorded and stuff. They'll come in here and say, I've never told anyone this since 1970 something. When I told a few people, and they looked at me like I was batshit crazy. And that's the kind of stuff we get walks in the door, and I basically want to document it. Can you give me a rough time frame, time of day, what you saw, rough size, that kind of thing. And we have the basic questions we ask. But
in Tommy's experience, let's say,
if Tommy would walk in and tell me about a dragon, I would interview him.
Yeah.
And I literally would. Doesn't mean I'm going to believe in dragons right away. But, if 30 people come in and someone's seen something, this creature, and all the things start to point in the same direction, hey, maybe I'll start loosening up my beliefs, going, hey, maybe there's something out there that resembles a dragon or something, or someone's doing something to fool these people. Perfect example, actually. Got one that came.
Well, if Tommy's belief in dragons, and he interviews people who believe in dragons, and let's say he's interviewed 30 people who have had sightings of dragons, or they think is dragons.
You're always hitting these numbers. There's no number thing.
Sure.
It could be 4 people if this evidence is really good, and maybe I'd be a little more leaning towards it. And, it's not like it has to be, 25 people I'm a believer.
Okay, so it's not it's not the number of people.
Right. You're trying to fit things into a graph here, and it doesn't work that way.
Are you saying it's the evidence then instead of
personal and how I feel about it? I mean, because it's me believing, not you. So
how you feel about it.
Right. My belief pattern is going to be different than yours. And there's going to be people out there that just aren't going to believe anything.
Are you saying your belief is based on how you feel about the interviews you're conducting with?
How comfortable I am? Yeah, sure. That's a lot of it.
Is feeling something is true, is that a good way to know whether something is true?
Yeah, I think so. I think I can trust myself. My old age now, I think I've been around the block a few times where I'm pretty comfortable about what I see and what I judge.
If we'll use Tommy again. If Tommy believes that the Earth is flat,
I'm not messing you up. I keep on touching the damn wire.
I think you're good.
Okay.
If Tommy believes that the Earth is, if Tommy believes that the Earth is flat,
mm-hmm.
and he believes it because he's interviewed people and he feels that what they're saying is true, is that a reliable way for Tommy to know whether or not the Earth is
for Tommy
flat?
It might be. It wouldn't be for me. But I have my beliefs. You have yours.
So it wouldn't be for you in that situation.
You're picking I'm only saying that because you're picking flat Earth, which I know for a fact isn't.
Okay, let's say Tommy says the Earth is round then.
Okay.
Well, no problem. Tommy says the Earth is round, and the reason why he believes the Earth is round is he's interviewed people, and he has a feeling that the people he has interviewed
mm-hmm.
are telling the truth. Is that a reliable way for him to know whether
for Tommy, sure,
the Earth
if
is
it works
round?
for Tommy, yeah.
Would that work for you?
It could. I mean, it depends. Like once again, you're looking for this cookie cutter thing where everything fits the same, and every subject is different. Everything you have to take. I mean, I might believe in God, you might not. I mean, so we all have different belief systems. So there's certain cutoffs for me where things are comfortable.
But I'm not trying to pigeonhole you. Really, I'm not. I'm trying to understand how
I'm just saying, you keep on thinking of these abstract things that you want me to kind of, judge on, and that's hard because it's nothing I've dealt with. I haven't interviewed anyone with a dragon. I haven't, I have talked to some flat earthers. I have dealt with that. But, I run a cryptozoology paranormal museum.
Yeah.
I leave the doors wide open. I mean, people come in here, going back to Bigfoot. Basically, some people think they're interdimensional. They can come and go and, disappear right before your eyes. Others think they're tied to UFOs. And from what we're getting here, of the interviews we're doing and stuff, I think they fall more into a flesh and blood creature. There's actually something out there that's leaving prints and breaking branches and things of that sort. And going through people's garbage cans and stuff of that sort. So.
And Tommy wants to believe that.
Mm-hmm.
How can we show Tommy that is true?
The only way I can show Tommy is by him listening to the interviews we do, watching the videos we produce, or even coming out when we do outings and experiencing it. Now, for me to tell you something, it's a story. It's a personal experience I'm sharing with you, and most likely, in my case, it's someone else's personal experience because I'm interviewing people. So if we can bring you out and let you experience something for yourself, then you can make your judgment, your call. We're not here to. This is not the church or Bigfoot. We're not here to convince anybody. We're here to tell the story.
Yeah.
And then you can make that decision. You can decide from 1 to 7 where you want to be,
Right.
So,
but I think we're talking about your belief.
Yeah.
Right. And you seem like you have a fairly strong belief in Bigfoot.
I believe something's out there. We use the name Bigfoot, but I don't really know exactly what it is. There's something that fits within that range that people are seeing out there. And there's been so many reportings that at this point, I lean much more towards the fact that there is something there.
Yeah.
And that's what you're looking to get me to, say. And I admit that. I've been saying it from the beginning. And
well, I only want you to say it if you believe it.
No, I do. I do.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm willing to say it. Yeah. But it took a while to get to this point. Because you got to cross that line where you're like, I tell people when we first came in here, we're telling stories of the paranormal and stuff. We're in the Bible Belt. Everyone's okay with that. Which I was surprised. They were pretty good. Everyone's had a ghost story their mother, their grandmother told them. Once we started talking Bigfoot, oh no, now we crossed the crazy line. We're in the world of being abducted by aliens and stuff like that. And but the bottom line is, like I said, there's so much coming through I mean, I could be on the other side coin. I mean, I know people that could be here. 1,000 people come through and give them, really good, testimonials, and we just wouldn't believe it. I mean, there's people that's not going to be. I'm open to these things. I've dealt with it. I had an interest in it, and I do follow up. So we actually, if you were to call me on the way, let's say you leave here, and you see something cross the road, you come back, and I'm going to be the first guy to try to interview you, sit you down, have you explain exactly what you saw, how it affected you, were you scared, the whole bit, and I'm here to document it. And then you'd be another person on the list that had an experience in an area where it was, say, 4 or 5 other sightings have happened in the last year and a half or so.
Right. So I'm really trying to get down to why you believe what you believe, and
I can't really tell you that. I'll be honest with you, that's a hard nut to say. I believe because I do, because and I might believe more 6 months from now. I might believe less.
So I'm just trying to follow you. So you believe in the belief because you believe it, and
because of the witnesses and the information, the stuff I keep on saying. Basically it's been a process that slowly data comes through people. The interviews, following up, and so I mean it's like anything. I mean how do you go from being a liberal kid to being, a conservative as you get older? I mean, your beliefs change, your views on things change.
Yeah, I can see that.
Things aren't black and white, like I said, it's always a gray area.
Well, to use your example then, when someone who changes their belief from conservative to liberal or vice versa, you're saying something happens that causes the change in that belief. Would you say, is there something that you could envision with your belief that could happen, and then
possibly?
What do you think that would be?
Oh, I have no idea. I'm speculating again. I mean, we're just fishing. But I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't know what happened.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I wouldn't, if you would, like I said, if you would have asked me 8 years ago would I be running a museum and talking about Bigfoot, I would have said hell no.
Yeah.
I mean, I was working hard news, crime, mob, celebrity. I was busy 7 days a week doing stuff. And occasionally I'd have time to go out there and we'd do a paranormal piece or a fun piece on, the Jersey Devil or something of that sort. And that was, I loved it because I was out there doing my own thing, from soup to nuts. I was setting it up. And it was stressful because you're trying to get your storyline together and get all these interviews and everything else. And you get a small budget, you're allowed staying within your budget. Like I said, this is nothing I would have thought I would have done, but using the skill set I had to interview people and come down here and having people sincerely come in and horrified, and people literally turned around and left their homes, moved away because of something they saw in the backyard, that horrified. I mean, that's pretty impressive stuff to come across. I mean, and even as doing guy who used to do documentaries, I mean, some of these interviews are like, I've showed people, if I wish I could show people here, but basically if I could show this to you, I mean, these, you could base a documentary on just some of these interviews by themselves. I mean, where they set a house on fire, and all the neighbors got together, when this thing came running out, they beat it to death. I mean, it's like, what the hell? I mean, this is the kind of stuff that walks through, and this is from this area, and the stories have been here for ages, so. Yeah, I mean, that's why my belief has gotten stronger in something out there instead of the opposite. But could it change? I know where you're going. Yeah, sure.
Well, what would make your belief stronger?
More evidence, continue the way it is. Actually, definitely, if we could find some really good, like a flesh or something like that, we get DNA from that. Even if it came up something that was non-recognizable, I'd be all the more.
So what would move your belief from 6 to say a 7?
Possibly.
Would be if we had physical evidence of a dead Bigfoot,
yeah,
or
that's why
DNA from a Bigfoot.
You're 1 to 7. That's why I'm picking a 6.
Yeah,
because I'm pretty convinced there's something going on. I mean, I can't say 100%. I'm in the 90 range, And
so to make you more confident in the belief,
better evidence.
If we had some Bigfoot flesh, or maybe
a full body, obviously,
full body would give you a 7. So that would bring you from a 6 to a 7. And that would give you more confidence. Would you say that if there was less evidence, then you would be less confident then, or as well, or how does that work for you?
to go backwards the other direction would be hard. I mean, it could happen. It easily could happen. But I mean, it took a long time to get to the point where I'm at now and believing this. I mean, it's a hard thing to wrap your head around. I mean, we had a police officer from New Bern come in this couple of years back, and she was talking about how she hit one with her car. And I'm not even with the whole story, but basically she sat here and said, I can't wrap my head around Bigfoot existing, let alone that I hit one with my car.
Right.
I mean, so this is that leap of faith you have to take when things happen. And here's someone's actually, her car was, it was drivable, but she actually had made a police report and the whole bit, and she was deputy sheriff, said Cold State Police, and I mean, these are good, credible stories. But there's so many of them, and now I've become like the clearinghouse for these coming in. So it's for me to go backwards now. I'm not saying I can always change my view, and but I find I'm going just the opposite. If you would have literally a year ago would have asked me, I would have never would have said I was a 6. I would have said more like I was a 4 or 5.
Yeah. So
so it does change.
If someone wants to believe in Bigfoot, let's say, where do you think the default position should be for that person? That I won't believe in Bigfoot until I am given sufficient evidence to believe in Bigfoot, or I will believe in Bigfoot until it is shown otherwise, that Bigfoot does not exist.
Yeah, I think just the default should be basically, be open. Don't try not to be a believer right away. Try not to be too much of a doubter. Kind of be somewhere in the middle. Everyone's going to have different positions where they are. And the person who's like, Bigfoot doesn't exist, there's no such thing as ghosts, there's no such thing as UFOs and that kind of stuff, is probably the person you're never going to get off that line. They're pretty much going to stay there. Just like the person who comes in and says, I've seen a Bigfoot show, so therefore I believe. They have no facts, no proof. They haven't done any of the really research. They're an armchair investigator. You're not going to change that person too. These are the people that are going to believe in, the flat Earth and all that. Just anything they see on TV. Somebody told me it's got to be real. So I like the people that are kind of in the middle. The people, that's why I love the interviews we get. That are people that come through that had no interest in seeing Bigfoot. We're not looking for Bigfoot. Something, they happen to come across something, or something's in their backyard, or they put food out for their animal, and they find something else is out there eating it, and it's just story after story after story. Right. And these are people that and most of them, most of them come to us and say they do not want their name out there.
Have you had direct experience with Bigfoot yourself?
No, I wish I had something better. Mm-hmm. I'm the journalist. I'm following up on the people who've had experiences and interviewing them. Yeah. But we try to get out there as quick as we can to look for something, and the best we found is prints, and some broken branches and some odd stuff like that. But even there, I like to be the guy. If let's say you and I go out to do the interview, I'd rather film you. I guess it's just like instinctively, like I said, I'm used to being behind the camera. Yeah. I mean, I'd rather be the person who's actually documenting it and telling the story and interviewing the person. It's just kind of what I'm more comfortable doing.
A general question for you, just about beliefs, not about this belief. Sure. I wonder, and I want to know what you think about beliefs. Do you think that people have more true beliefs, or do you think people have more false beliefs, generally speaking?
That's a good question. I don't know. Once again, I guess it goes by the subject. Let's figure just our subject here. And I would say, in the world of paranormal and, crypto, ufology, things of that sort, I would say there's a lot of false information out there.
Do you think there's more false beliefs than true?
Yeah, but thereabouts. I mean, I'm not saying the belief is false. I think the information is false. I think we get a lot of people out there that are working off, a TV show.
I'm sorry, the belief is true, but the information is false.
I'm not saying necessarily. You're looking for black and white.
No, I'm just trying to understand what you're saying.
Yeah, I'm really just, there's a lot of people, if you believe that something, the belief here is it can be something beyond us, something, more than us. And that's the real belief, being whatever it is. A god, a Bigfoot, a UFO, intelligent life in space, whatever it's going to be. And that, I think, is the belief. Yeah, someone's open to those sort of things. Then you can pick and choose what makes you comfortable and where you go. As far as that, though, but I mean, I think there's a lot of false information, just like religions. There's a lot of people take advantage of people's religious beliefs, and cults come up, and next thing you know, they're drinking Kool-Aid. I mean, you can steer people down a path. Even the innocent stuff is some of these TV shows that are out there. I mean, basically, a perfect example of some of these paranormal shows. If you don't believe in their way of ghost hunting, it's incorrect.
Yeah.
And it's like, instead of just being open to what's happening, do your due diligence, do your investigations. You got to put your time in to find things, and then be skeptical. I mean, that's the whole thing. We go out there. I mean, we don't just because we see something, a broken branch doesn't mean it's Bigfoot. There has to be a whole series of things there, and then on top of that, if we find something, we're the first ones to put it up online and say, like, what do you think?
If Bigfoot wasn't a thing, I'm not saying.
I don't know if I answered your question. I went in circles.
I'm not saying that's the case, but if Bigfoot wasn't a thing, what would be the second best explanation, do you think, for all these sightings and what people are telling you?
I think the only other thing it could possibly be is another animal that's being mistaken for whatever it's seen. Like, once again, like I said earlier, we have some kind of hybrid bears that are walking upright and have been doing it for over 100 years. I mean, that could be a possible explanation, which, could be. We don't know until we, get more evidence here. Otherwise, then you can go down the rabbit hole a little farther and say, maybe it's a bunch of people acting like Bigfoot's out there because they want the scam to, scare people or something like that. Go down to the, which, it's just, it gets harder and harder for someone to do that. I mean,
but maybe and this will help, I think, with the belief in Bigfoot, let's say, and the belief in a hybrid bear, and the belief in people acting like Bigfoot, is there a way that you think we could distinguish between those three beliefs?
I'm not sure what your question is there, but
well, let's say someone believes, someone's seeing the evidence.
There's three different beliefs, so I mean,
right? Is there a way we could
pick and choose?
Find out what's true?
Yeah, well, you just it's kind of, once again, it goes back. I don't think there's anything. You have to make that judgment for yourself. You have to go out there and do your research and find what's going on. Now, since I'm leaning towards the cryptic side, I'm taking kind of the extreme path, where it's quite possible now, like you said, is there a chance I can come back from saying these things exist? Yeah, sure. If we got some really good footage and we found some kind of weird bear that's walking on two legs, I'd go consistently, and the prints and stuff, I'd say, okay.
Yeah, I'm not talking about like somebody who has no dog in the fight and they just want to know it's true. Right. If they want to know if the stuff if what people are seeing is Bigfoot, if they want to know if what they're seeing is a hybrid bear, they want to know if what they're seeing is people in the woods, they just want to know it's true. And I'm wondering how we could help them distinguish what's true.
But once again, they'd have to do their own research. I mean, because once again, if we tell them, we're telling them. If you tell them it's people faking it, and I tell them it's I think it's a flesh and blood creature, that's two different paths, and they have to pick and choose themselves.
It seems like there's no way for them to really.
It's hard. No. You have to unless you want to go out there and do your research. I mean, once again, you get back to the guys watching the TV shows. There's a couple of these shows out there like Mountain Monsters and stuff, which are, pure entertainment. I mean, they base it loosely on some stories that are out there, and then they go out and they, with a camera crew, and they chase shadows primarily, and
From personal experience, I have most definitely had beliefs that I realize now I was incorrect about. Mm-hmm. Has that ever happened to you, do you think?
Sure.
And when that's happened, how did you find that out?
It's just growing up, being more mature, thinking things out. So, I mean, like I said here, I mean, I'm for me to be on the side of telling you I believe there's something out there in the woods, people are seeing something, it's quite a path I've taken from where, I'm very practical. I worked at Brookhaven National Laboratory. I worked on the Star Wars project. I mean, when I'm used to kind of doing scientific sort of, even photography is basically in videography. You're dealing with, you're dealing with numbers and lenses and the whole bit like you're doing here. And so you go out there now into this world where your belief system is being kind of stretched. I mean, but that's where I am at this point. So yeah, could it change again? Sure.
Yeah.
You know, nothing's written in stone, like I keep saying.
Yeah.
Like you never. I'm like, look what I'm doing. 63 years old. I mean, I'm running a cryptozoology museum, an elected official in town here, none of which pays anything, by the way. And I mean, that's the last thing I would have thought I was doing. I mean, you know, so.
Well, I would imagine this has been one of the more unusual interviews you've had.
No, actually, I've had some pretty strange ones. Trust me.
Yeah. How do you think this went?
No, I think it's good. I like it. I enjoy this sort of thing. A little banter, you know.
Yeah. Well, I do appreciate
Drinking
you.
too much water, though. I hope I didn't glug through all your interview here.
I do appreciate you talking with me. I do.
Yeah.
I think what I'd like to do is just, if I could just get a video of.
Well, I'm going to shut this off. Are you guys done with that?
Yeah.
Let me just go over here and just kind of do a closeout on this.
Right.
All right, folks. I'm going to shut this down. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.
Awesome. I think what I was going to do is
I don't
just
think it's going to shut off.
stick.